Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news. And of course, I know many of you guys out there have already known the interference that the FBI and intel agencies ran back in 2020 in an effort to ensure that Donald Trump would not remain president, where they decided to go ahead and side with the Democrat Party, because they are part of the Democrat Party, and then to ensure that they would work on behalf of the machine to ensure President Trump when it returned to office. They dispatched her lackeys into social media offices across Silicon Valley to ensure that they would silence opponents of Biden and of course silence the supporters of President Trump in 2020. This is an absolute bombshell, obviously, and news media will not be speaking of this because they know if they speak to it, then they are culpable for what took place during the 2020 election and the American people would be told the truth, and they are not allowed to tell the truth. They're not allowed to deviate from the narrative. They have to continue to keep the narrative up. They have to continue to keep this election, as they call it, safe and secure. When we know massive interference was not done by the Russian government, but instead, our own intel agencies ran up against President Donald J. Trump. So let's dive into what we have here. Coming to us from Kyle Becker News over here. It says FBI agent reveals in testimony, big tech companies met with FBI on a weekly basis ahead of the 2020 election. There's a lawsuit right now in the state of Missouri, with the state of Missouri suing the Biden regime right now, and multiple individuals are having to give desk positions, people like Jen Psaki, Anthony Fauci, members of the intel community, other members of the regime. This is going all the way up to the top of we know the efforts they utilize in order to make sure they could pull off the biggest theft in human history. The big tech lawsuit has uncovered one of the most disturbing revelations yet about social media as companies' collusion with law enforcement agencies to police speech on the internet. Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt, one of the attorney generals that filed a lawsuit, disclosed an overview FBI agent Elvis Chan's testimony on weekly meetings about censoring internet posts ahead of the 2020 election. In our deposition of FBI agent Elvis Chan on Tuesday, we found that the FBI plays a big role in working with social media companies to censor speech from weekly meetings with social media companies ahead of the 2020 elections to ask for account takedowns. Schmidt wrote in a Twitter thread, Chan, the FBI as FYTF, a senior CISA official, had meetings with social media companies in the lead up to the 2020 election, in which Cham personally told the social media companies that there could potentially be a Russian hack and leak operations shortly before the election. He continued, those meetings were initially quarterly, then monthly, then weekly heading into the 2020 election. Chan stated that the FBI regularly sent social media companies list of URLs and social media accounts that should be taken down, because they were disinformation from malign foreign influence operations. Summit went on. The FBI did inquire whether the platforms had taken down the content on many occasions. 2 platforms took down the accounts flagged by the FBI. Chan testified because of the agent's extensive knowledge of the FBI interaction with social media companies. The judge in the case, David Chan, had authority over cybersecurity issues for the FBI in San Francisco, California region, which includes to headquarters up of major social media platforms, and played a critical role for the FBI in coordinating with social media platforms related to censorship. Judge Terry Adoctory wrote in his court order, even if Chan played no role in the Hunter Biden the laptop communication issue, he may have knowledge of who did, and his deposition is nonetheless warranted. The judge added, if Chan played no role in the suppression of the Hunter Biden left story, then such information will be made clear in his deposition. On Friday night, Twitter released a trove of internal documentation about the social media platform coordination with the Biden campaign staff and DNC officials as head of the 2020 election. But one thing was missing, as pointed out by New York homeless Miranda Devine. Elon Musk have delivered on a promise to tell about the Twitter censorship of the New York Post Hunter Biden laptop story before the 2020 election. Devin said what was missing were details of specific warnings. We know the FBI made to Twitter about Russian hack and leak operation involving Hunter during the weekly meetings with top executives of social media giant in the days and weeks before the Posts published the exclusive bombshell. We know that the FBI Supersite Supervisory Special Agent Elvis Chan testified Tuesday in a lawsuit against the Biden administration brought by Republican attorneys that he organized those weekly meetings with Twitter, Facebook. In San Francisco for many as 7 Washington-based FBI agents in the run-up to the 2020 presidential election. And no, I will note this for you guys there at home. Bill Barr was also part of this. Christopher Wray was part of this. The machine was working against Trump at all levels in his own administration. They were working in concert with the swamp with this establishment because the establishment did not want Trump to ever be in the White House. And they are currently now working to ensure he never returns. No longer are we going to be allowed to elect an outsider. We're going to only be given the choices that they present to us that establishment candidates want for us to vote on. That's who they're going to put in front of us. They made a mistake in 2016 by not doing more to prevent Trump from becoming president. And now they are going to use every facet of the federal government to ensure that that will never occur. Some significant news. This is exactly what I mean. You know, this is actually what the GOP needs. Some kahana says, excuse my terrible Spanish accent. But I mean for real what James Woods is saying here. What he is promising is admirable. And I think more people and especially the GOP establishment should adopt some of this attitude. You know, you learn at a very, very young age that if you let the bully walk all over you, if you let the bully take your lunch money once, twice, 3 times, without saying anything, without standing up, well, then that bully will feel empowered and continue to do so, and probably is going to continue to push it further and further and further from taking your lunch money does something else and something worse. When you don't defend yourself, it almost always gets worse for you. And so it's time to investigate. It's time to stand up. It's time to sue, and that is exactly what James Woods is doing. After the most recent Twitter revelations, the Twitter bombshell showing a connection between the DNC, the current government, and executives at Twitter suppressing individuals' rights to speak, to tweet, to have their voices heard online in the online public forum. And not only that connection, but showing that the DNC explicitly asked Twitter to suppress at real James Woods, well-based patriot Mr. Woods isn't taking it very lightly. In fact, he is promising to sue the DNC, and this right here, friends, we need to see more of. Let me show you guys what's going on. Let's listen to what James Woods had to say on Tucker Carlson show. And then of course, let's talk about it. Alright folks, so I'm sure you guys are aware of the revelations. For those of you guys who aren't, very quickly, we'll just briefly go over this. Here's an email that was sent directly from the DNC linking a tweet from James Woods himself and asking Twitter executives to take it down. Well, let's just say rightfully so James Wood isn't so happy about it. This is going to be a little bit of a longer clip, but trust me, it's worth it. This man's voice deserves to be heard. Everyone listen to this. Is there some kind of legal or civil recourse that you would have against the people? I can guarantee you one thing, more than anything else you'll ever hear in your life, I will be getting a lawyer. I will be suing the Democratic National Committee. No matter what, whether I win or lose, I am going to stand up for the rights of every American, not a so-called celebrity, hardly recognizable anymore, because my career has been destroyed by these very people. And I will sue, and I'm hoping other people will sue. And if it turns out there are a lot of us on this list, where the DNC targeted us. And I will quote the immortal words of Joseph Wealth when he attacked Joe McCarthy, but the enemies list he had at long last are have you no shame? Yes, President Biden, all of your boxes, little operatives in the DNC who have targeted American citizens. Have you, Mr. President, have all of you at last? No shame. They're not going to be happy about in the long run. And you know, what am I going to get at it? I don't know. But I'm going to sue for that. But there was a guy who called me a cocaine addict on Twitter. 1. Never done drugs with my wife. And they even stipulated, well, he was just doing it with hyperbole. I sued. I want the slap on that suit. So I can't talk about it because of the settlement that we did much more than that. And someone said, why would you do it? I said, in my name, I'm not gonna let them slander me like this. That was libel in that case, but there's a distinction, as you know, but I'm not going to put up with it. And if I have to be the flag bearer for this, and so be it. I'll be proud to do it. I shouldn't be proud. I want to say in closing, you may notice that I never talk to the press anymore. I'm asked yes every day. Okay, I've left Twitter as my only source of public any statement I might make because I always say those are my words. And that's going to, you know, you're not going to alter it by doing your slow motion video of me in black and white, all that crap that they do. But. They've been doing this as if you're hard against conservative people. I was blocked on Twitter for 8 months. You know, I was suspended for voting Ralph Waldo Emerson. You imagine that's how crazy these people are. And one of the things that I said on Twitter once that has become kind of a meme, scratch your liberal and you'll find a fascist every time I tell you, these Democrats, and now I can say it because they aren't my enemy. They declared this, not me. But when they go around calling everybody all just not a fascist and never the fascists, or scratch a liberal and you will find a fascist, every time. And so I'll say what I've said before, sue them into oblivion. They absolutely deserve it. Just like CNN and MSNBC deserve to be sued by the Covington kids, just like they deserve to be sued by Kyle Rittenhouse. They no longer should be allowed to just get away scot-free with their violations of people's constitutional rights and the constant slander and defamation that they target undeserving individuals with. And it is on, folks, it is on. Even if you don't win the suit, you almost have a higher calling to at least try. You know, if Elon Musk is willing to potentially risk and sacrifice $44 billion of his personal net worth to fight for the right thing and to fight against this corrupt shadow regime, then more people should be willing to follow Elon Musk's leadership. It's time to change the dynamic. No longer the conservative days of old are these Democrat bullies get to do what they want, and the conservative view is condemning them publicly and doing absolutely nothing about it. Just like my take on the whole election thing in the ballot harvesting thing, it's time for Republicans, it's time for conservatives to play the damn game. It's time to start standing up to these fascists, because once again James Wood is absolutely correct. As scratch a leftist you scratch a liberal and you see a fascist in today's day. That is so incredibly succinct, it's accurate. And you don't exactly need to look for to find proof. The easiest example, I mean, just open Twitter and take a look at what left boys are saying in response to this massive bombshell, unconstitutional, corrupt, authoritarian Democrat scandal on Twitter. This Twitter bombshell, they're all defending it. They're pretending like it's not a big deal, or making memes, or trying to distract from the subject. These are not honest figures. I mean, take a look with Mark Ruffalo said. Mark Refloat says Twitter should be heavily regulated for misinformation, suggests government intervention if Elon Musk does not police the platform. Take a look at this as a worldwide public square. This app should be heavily regulated for misinformation and spamming by hostile interests. If Elon can't do that with his company, it should be seen as a public utility under government supervision. The system unregulated will be more deadly now to a lot of people who aren't thinking past their nose. This might seem like a logical take. Oh, real smart man Mark Ruffalo is yes. Government regulated, the system unregulated. You say we'll be deadly. We don't want that. But anybody who has an understanding of basic history knows how much a fallacy this is, knows how much a trap this is. It's an ideological trap. In every single authoritarian government that has committed the worst atrocities in human history, there is one common denominator, and that denominator is government control of the population and information. And what Mark Ruffalo is essentially advocating for here is government control over Twitter, government control over the public square, heavy regulation into what people can and can't say. That's the type of stuff that led to the rise of Nazism, Germany, Soviet Union, and the 60 million lives that were lost that followed the communist overtake of government, of course, the CCP, and what we're seeing right now and what we've seen over the last, what is it, a century or so of history. This is what I mean by James Woods hits the nail on the head when he's talking about scratch a liberal and you'll find a fascist, even the ones that don't necessarily mean it. The ones who think that they're doing the right thing or saying the right thing, advocating for the right causes, don't realize that they are inadvertently creating a path towards authoritarianism, big government control over information, which is essentially propaganda. See where these left boys stand, whether informed or not, ignorant or not, intentional or not, it all leads to the same thing: top-down authoritarian style, control and power. And it's just remarkable the type of things that I'm seeing leftist advocate defend are some of the arguments that they're making. I mean, another bombshell head suggesting that Joe Biden's government is working with tech oligarchies to suppress people's speech, and their take is good, we should see more of it. Their take is, again, my private company, but this is beyond my private company. I mean, the leftist mob private company argument is dead. It's gone forever. Because Twitter making these decisions on its own is one thing that wouldn't necessarily be a violation of people's constitutional rights in that domain, in that realm. They have protections against that kind of thing, But Twitter taking marching orders from the feds or from the current administration or regime to suppress free speech that the political ruling class deems unfit for human consumption, that is a violation of constitutional rights, that is, in my opinion, illegal, and that, my friends, is exactly what Twitter leftists are defending, and that in my view is absolutely repulsive. It's sickening, it's nauseating, but that in the end is the left. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button to watch the next episode.